Before we dive in, I wanted to take a moment to thank this season's presenting sponsor, ShopMy. ShopMy is a platform that connects designers, tastemakers, and creators with shoppers who trust their style and recommendations. With ShopMy, you can discover and shop the pieces experts actually use and love in their own homes, all in one beautifully curated place. And now, shopping is even easier with the launch of the new ShopMy app. Create circles with your favorite curators like myself or today's guest, discover new products tailored to your taste, and save everything you love with wish lists and Snapshot right in the app. Download the new ShopMy app at the link in the show notes. And now, on to this week's episode.
We really value that part of the project at the beginning, where we can really get to know our clients and really understand what they want, to show them that we can be trusted and we're going to go away and create something really lovely for them, because without that they're not going to enjoy the experience. And that's really important, that that they trust us. But you have to work at that and do lots of little tweaks to the designs or the process for each individual client to make sure that they are getting what they need from that.
Welcome to Talk Shop. I'm Ariel Okin, a New York-based interior designer, writer, and editor, looking to bring a little bit of magic into our homes every day. After years as a writer and editor in the interiors world, I founded my own editorial site, Fenimore Lane, in 2020, and the Talk Shop interview series was born. Each week, I delve into the personal experiences of the top interior designers and tastemakers around the globe. For this week's episode, we're welcoming the powerhouse duo behind Salvesen Graham, Nicole Salvesen and Mary Graham. Established in London, their studio combines over 25 years of experience and a deep understanding of both residential and commercial design, creating beautifully curated spaces for clients in the UK and around the world. Since founding their studio in 2013, Nicole and Mary have developed a signature approach by blending the elegance of Georgian England, the vibrancy of historic Indian textiles, and a modern sensibility, a philosophy they call future heritage. And in 2016, they launched the collection by Salvesen Graham, featuring their own chic range of fabrics, wallpapers, and furniture inspired by the elements that have shaped their aesthetic. This May, Nicole and Mary published their debut book, A New English Style, celebrating how to honor tradition while creating spaces that feel alive today and built to last. So please join me as I welcome Nicole and Mary to the podcast. Nicole and Mary, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm so excited to talk to both of you. I'm such huge fans.
Thank you. We are excited.
Well, to kick off the conversation, we always ask everyone who comes on, can each of you describe each of your styles in 3 words or less?
You go, Nicole.
I'm going to say timeless, layered, and joyful.
And the good news is that I started with timeless as well. So I feel that we're at least in tune this far. And then I have gone, for me personally, for then traditional and comfortable.
I love that. And it fits so beautifully with your work. And for those listening, tell us a little bit about yourselves and where you are at this point in your lives right now.
I am physically in North Yorkshire in the north of England, where I live with my husband. I've got a 11-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old son, and a very cute little mini dachshund who's pottering around at my feet.
So cute.
And yeah, we moved out of the city just before COVID, so I've been here for a while now, and it's lovely. But in terms of life right now, I made a little note saying where I am in life right now is exhausted. Just before Christmas, busy times, work and family and everything is all brilliant fun, but definitely very exhausting.
Yeah, totally. I'm in the same boat with you. We all need to take a nap.
And well, on that note, I'm in London and have another gorgeous Christmas party this evening to attend. So I'm based in London, very close to our office, south of the river. And I live with my husband and our 3 children. I've got 3 girls, sort of from 9 to 13. Unlike Mary's sort of very calm dachshund, I've got a crazy spaniel. So it's really nice because we have a good balance of, myself being based closer to the office and Mary up in Yorkshire, but comes down a lot. So it works really well. And yes, very busy.
So busy. I feel like I love that you guys are also in the same sort of life stage as I am right now, because we can all kind of we can empathize with this time of year.
I know. And I think, I think what's one of the things about, our journey and our, sort of career together is Mary and I met actually at university, so quite a long time ago. And we both moved to London and sort of did different jobs initially. Mary more in the sort of historic buildings and design world. And then I moved into interior design as well. And we used to sort of meet up and talk about our careers in our industry. And we had been to university, we went to Durham University, and a lot of our friends actually went into sort of quite financial industries or legal, and they didn't really understand what we were doing,
and still don't. I think
still don't. They're very proud of us though, when they see us doing things like, they like to listen to podcasts. But actually, it was such a nice time of our lives, sort of, meeting up, having a drink, and talking about what we were doing in the day to day in a way that other people didn't really understand. And I think that, exactly like you say, having that ability and someone to reflect on things with has been one of the things that's been such a great thing for us throughout the whole of Salvesen Graham, and that's whether that's been moves we've done in life, Mary moving to Yorkshire, or the children we've had, and it's enabled us to really sort of take turns a little bit over the years. I think hopefully now we're not quite so much doing that, but it was definitely for the first probably 6 or 7 years of Salvesen Graham, we were going in and out of small children and life changes. Hopefully I feel things might be a bit more settled, who knows.
And definitely easier to do that with someone else than on your own.
Absolutely. And it makes a big difference, I think, when you have a partner in your work who fully understands exactly, the same path that you guys are basically on the same trajectory. It's really special to have that. Let's talk a little bit about, so you met at Durham University and you later reconnected in the design world. Nicole, you worked at Nina Campbell.
Yes.
Prior. And Mary, you were at Salvesen.
Yeah, exactly. Two very impressive female bosses.
Yes, seriously. And you must have learned so much, having that experience leading up to starting your own firm in 2013. What were some of the biggest challenges in deciding to launch a studio while balancing, personal lives, careers, young kids, all of that?
I mean, I think as we've all sort of touched upon, that juggle between family time and work is always a challenge. And I think for anyone who's setting up a business they're passionate about, it should be a challenge, because you should be thinking about work 24 hours a day, and if you're not, you're probably not that passionate about it. So we definitely went into it with our eyes open, like knowing that would be hard. But because there were two of us and we happened to time things very well with our families, it meant that we could push the business forward with a lot of momentum without having to stop to take time out to have kids. And I think that was something that was a really conscious decision for us, that we wanted to start this business and then not have to keep stopping it and starting it again and losing any ground that we made. We wanted it to really flourish in the early days and set a good sort of foundation for building the business on. So it was challenging and hard work, but we definitely knew what we were going into, which I think is half the battle, to be prepared and ready for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think coming from such established firms, it gives you such a good footing to go out on your own, because you've seen how those firms operate and you've learned so much from being there that when you do go out on your own, you're equipped.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wonder whether we've sort of reflected, we reflected on lots of things over the last couple of years as we've sort of got to a point in our business, or, and we launched our book last year. And I think we also perhaps have realized that maybe that was also quite intimidating as well, not really, we definitely came into or started Salvesen Graham with an idea that we wanted it to be, amazing, but I don't think we necessarily had a very, very clear set idea of that, because especially, both Cindy and Nina, but because Nina's had that international career that has spanned so many different parts of the world, and the huge nature of her fabric collection, I think that felt probably quite huge and unattainable in a way.
Yeah.
So I think we didn't necessarily go into it thinking, right, that's what we're doing, but equally we're hugely inspired by the people that we'd worked with before, and we are so lucky to have them in our lives still now. And I think it's been a hugely beneficial thing to us to have had that experience and to see what they had done.
Yeah. And even if we didn't necessarily think we were setting off to become, the successor of Nina Campbell, as a person and a woman, what she has created in terms of a business has been very inspiring for us in terms of having the interior design business, but also the product, books, traveling. Definitely when we set out, we thought, this is inspiring and impressive and something that is achievable ultimately. But yeah, I think until we were really on that path, particularly when something like the book comes along, you never set out thinking, I'm in 10 years time I'm going to have a book, or we certainly didn't.
And I love your book.
Thank you.
It is so gorgeous. I read it cover to cover. It is one of my favorites. It's so beautiful.
Well, I think what we're so proud of, and that's to David's credit, David Nichols, who we did the book with, he has written it so beautifully. And one of the comments we get all the time is that people absolutely love reading it, which I think we often joke during the process of doing the book, saying, no one's going to read these captions. It's all about the photography.
Don't worry about that. No one's going to.
But actually, he showed us, and, he is so clever and he's written it so beautifully. So people do really enjoy reading it, which is lovely to hear. And actually, I was reflecting on one thing with the story about Nina Campbell, though, and reflecting on her being an inspiration. We did go out for lunch with her very early on, I think probably 4 or 5 years maybe into Salvesen Graham, and to ask her advice about the fabrics and whether that was something we wanted to pursue. And pretty much got told that don't do that. It's really hard. It's not, it's not an easy business to go into. So obviously we don't listen to everything we're told, but I'm sort of glad that
and thank God you didn't, because let's talk about that a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about your process designing your own fabrics and wallpapers and furniture ranges, and how did that sort of start? And are there any pieces that in particular that you feel really capture the Salvesen Graham aesthetic?
I think in terms of how it started, it was kind of twofold. There's the practical, pragmatic answer, and then the sort of more romantic one. On that side of it, it was like all designers, I think we wanted another creative outlet. Projects take quite a long time to work on, and the creative element of a project can actually be really small.
Yeah.
So everyone has the dream of then funneling all their creative juices into another outlet, which was the product. But also from a really practical point of view, again, because projects take so long, when we started our business, we realized that there was going to be quite a gap between projects ending and photography and being able to talk to the press about things, or to talk to followers on Instagram about anything, because you were waiting kind of 3 years for the next project to be photographed. So from a more practical perspective, we thought, how else can we keep in the forefront of people's minds? How else can we get press coverage? How else can we have something to talk about?
Mm-hmm.
And realized that product was a really good way to do that. And because you didn't have a client for product, it meant it really could be authentic to you. You weren't having to kind of please anybody else. So it felt like a really good way to, in the infancy of our business, kind of explain to people what Salvesen Graham was about. So I would say it was a sort of double pronged reason to why we started.
It's really smart. And also because you're doing it on your own and it's not licensed, you really have full creative control.
Totally.
And it looks exactly how you want it to look, which I think sometimes isn't always the case with licensed stuff. And it's really great to see the full creative essence coming out in what you produce. And that's why it's so standout and so unique and so beautiful.
You have full creative control, but also full financial liability.
Risk. Yeah. You win some, you lose some. Actually, to that point, that's also been a journey though as well, the sort of creativity and what we really wanted to achieve, especially with when we moved more into focusing on the fabrics and wallpapers. When we first launched our fabric collection, which was in 2019, we'd actually just we'd recently before that been on a trip to Charleston, and we were really inspired by so much of the architecture. And I think actually generally we were just at a point in our career where we were really able, both because of the points in our lives we were at, that our children weren't perhaps quite so small, we were able to travel more with work.
Yeah.
And when you're in the UK, it can be harder to get away sometimes. You're not going to the US so much, for example, when you've got tiny children. And so we were suddenly able to do that a bit more, and to go out and be inspired by the design world around us, not just obviously Charleston, but lots of different places. And so I think that was sort of probably a moment where the confidence to create this fabric collection sort of appeared, and we came back from there, really got our heads down, and then obviously quite soon later went into lockdown. And actually it was during that time that we forged forward and created our first fabrics. And I think originally those were born from an idea of more wanting to create something that perhaps people that weren't interior designers could dip into as well, and create a bit of Salvesen Graham, and it was quite bold and very much the point where we all were at that time, that we really needed full joy, full colour, and actually we love that original collection. But I think the journey that we've sort of been on with the rest of the collection and our recent woven fabrics that we released last year, that was sort of really, to our mind, the sort of coming of age of the collection to an extent, and it sort of brought it to a point that felt really comfortable with how we design as well. And we're really happy that what the weaves did for the collection was create something that you could combine them with the original collection, but they could also really work with so many other things that we love in the interiors world. So, and we've got a new collection coming out early next year in February, and that is an even bigger extension of where we want our fabrics and wallpapers to be. I mean, it's pretty vast, isn't it, Mary?
Yeah, it's really exciting, the new collection, because I think you said, are there any kind of things that truly capture our aesthetic? And this new collection completely captures it, and was kind of the point of it. I know, we'll have to show you, we'll send you a sneak peek. But it definitely, the point of it was to really capture the essence of Salvesen Graham, and it really kind of embodies the spirit of English decorating. I think there's a real mixture of different types of fabric, and then also different design motifs, from kind of paisleys to florals to ikat. So it's really, we feel like it gives someone all the ingredients to then go and create a English interior. So we're very excited about it. Yeah.
We're thinking of it a bit of a sort of interior designer's toolkit.
Yeah,
that there are so many different aspects to it that you can really dip in all sorts of projects. And I think one of the things that we really reflected on when we were putting the book together was really digging deep into what our interiors were and what that actually meant. And what we realized when we pulled all these different projects together was that actually so many of our projects were so different, but actually that they had some common threads running through them. And those common threads were perhaps layering or mixing in antiques or using color in a certain way. And I think that common thread is almost what you can get from this fabric collection. It's not just about necessarily an English interior, but it's about something that feels really authentic and layered. Exactly. So that really exciting. And when we pull our collections together, we delve into archive fabrics, and often they're designs from fashions and fashion rather than interiors. And that's sort of the original inspiration. And then we look at them, and then we perhaps change. We sometimes will change lots of things about them. We'll change the scale, we'll pull something out, and and actually what it is, a couple of the designs in the new collection, you would never, unless you're in the office with us, you wouldn't necessarily know that that's where we've taken it from.
No, they bear no kind of resemblance to the original archive document.
That's so interesting, though, because I think so much inspiration is like it hits a personal chord with you, but then it morphs and changes over the course of time in your hands. It's almost like you found a bit of clay and you're sort of molding it into what you want it to be so that it feels in line with your branding. And your book has such a point of view too. I mean, it's really it's such a favorite of mine.
Thank you. It's so nice to hear, I think, other people talk about it, because when you're so in the weeds of doing it, and obviously it's full of our work, which we're familiar with, and we know what our point of view is because we, talk about
You're doing it every day. Yeah.
So that's one of the things I think we found so lovely about the book. The positive reaction, but also the fact that people have said, oh, it's really clear what your kind of message is, or I knew this was your book when I opened it, because it just really felt like Salvesen Graham. And when you're in it, it's hard to see that. So the book has been a lovely vehicle for us to see how other people view us and our work. And I think that was an unexpected side to the book.
Yeah. And we've always been really inspired by books. I mean, we're probably a bit older than Ariel, and in our early career, you didn't have Pinterest and we had fax machines in our offices, and not everyone had a computer.
We always joke the sound of the fax machine still terrifies me. I sort of have nightmares about the dial tone.
That's amazing. But what that did mean was when we started a project, we would all sit around a table and you'd open books and everyone would put post-it notes on pages and get inspired and excited and draw in the same way that you might do sometimes from a Pinterest image. It might be a tiny detail in the corner of a room, but you draw inspiration from those things, and that's how you might create an interior. So the thing that we get so much excitement about is if we go into someone else's office and we see our book and it's got a post-it note sticking out.
We were in America last month in Texas, and we went to someone's office, and they had the book and it was full of post-it notes, and we were just like, this is a full circle moment. It was really amazing.
Absolutely. Well, I can tell you there are many post-its on my copy, and I have a copy at home and I have a copy in the office.
Oh, that's so lovely. Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about the design process, because I know we were just talking a little bit about finding inspiration, but there's so much that goes into a concept, a project from concept to install. What is your favorite thing about working within design?
I think it's the variety of the job, and that really no 2 days are the same. And we're lucky, I think, and I guess this is also why we started our own business, that it's not just the design that we love. It is the early stages of the project, really getting under the skin of it, talking to the client about how they want to live, how their life might change. It's the architectural aspects of, reconfiguring layouts. Then it's the bit that I think most people think is interior design. It's the kind of theming and creative process. Then it's the project management and the logistics. And in the back of that, we're running a team and we're doing marketing and finance and, just everything.
Yeah, you touch so many different...
Yeah, you touch so many aspects of a business. And actually, that's something that we've always enjoyed from day one and continue to in varying degrees. When you've been doing it for this long, there are some bits of it that you have less enthusiasm for.
Totally.
But I think it is the variety of every day and the different and interesting people you meet as well. It just keeps you constantly inspired and sort of invigorated.
I think so. I think it's also that constant evolution of it as well. And, every project is a bit different and every client is different. And that has to stay as a fundamental sort of core of how we design. What I think that we always mostly enjoy is also the relationship between sort of how we design together. We sit around a table and we'll debate it before the client gets it. And, it's really nice. We, I think, have valued more and more in recent years that collaboration that comes from the two of us to create our interiors, because we do design everything together. So you see every room does feel like that combination of sort of two different minds, which is such a nice part of our interior design and our process. So I think, you know, really learning from our clients and learning from the different projects we're working on is so inspirational. So I do think that probably is something, when someone calls you and, you know, asks you about a new project, it's just thrilling to have the opportunity to work on, and the scare. It's sort of, and you know how it works when you first start. Perhaps everything that's coming through the door is not exactly your dream job to be working on. And we are so lucky that, you know, we now are working increasingly on just such fabulous projects, and I think that is evolution of your business and your design abilities really sort of keeps it all really exciting. So we're very lucky to be doing that.
It's amazing. Is there a design rule that you always follow, or one that you find is made to be broken?
That's a good question. I mean, I am generally, as a person, I'm a huge rule follower. And increasingly, as I get older, I find it very hard to break rules. But I think in work, actually, we don't really subscribe to many rules. I find it quite hard not to be symmetrical. When someone says they want something a bit off-center, I sort of clench my fists a bit under the table.
I feel the same way about that.
And I think I found this quote a while ago, because I can't remember why. I think it was to do an article to do with art or something, but it was a brilliant Picasso quote which said, learn the rules like a pro so you can break them like an artist. And I think that's such a good principle in any profession. You have to understand the fundamentals and learn how to do it properly before you can then disrupt it and do something, you know, do whatever you want, frankly. So we've both been trained pretty classically, and we know the, in inverted commas, rules that you should follow and the sort of traditional way of doing things. And I think if you do know that, and that's your underlying principle, then over the top of that, you can kind of go where the wind takes you, you know, because you've got that foundation.
Well, you know, I was just going to say, I think it's a bit like looking at a house that has amazing Georgian architecture or details, that we would always look at them and respect everything. But actually, I think one of our sort of approaches is not to be a slave to anything.
Yeah.
And not to feel totally tied to it. And I think that's exactly that sort of idea that Mary was describing, of sort of, you know, that it's okay to break things if you are also being respectful at the same time. So you can break those rules.
Yeah. And if you're knowledgeable about what you're breaking.
I think you can see so much of that in your work too, because it's undone in a way that feels so comfortable and inviting, but it's still elevated and polished and connected.
Yeah, and I think you do have to have that understanding. You have to be in a place of understanding what it should be like in the first place to kind of be able to do that, which comes, I think, just from experience. You know, we always wish people luck who start a business after sort of 1 or 2 years in the industry, because really so much of this just comes from years of projects and experience and following what your mentors are doing and learning and knowing what works and what doesn't work and what's conventional and what's unexpected, you know. And those things, I think, take time because they they require confidence, and that comes from experience. In this job, I think more than many other industries, you know, you need to have got a few houses under your belt, as it were, to know what works and what doesn't work. And that takes years, because it's not a quick instant world that we work in.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'd had sort of nearly 20 years of experience between us before we started Salvesen Graham. So we really did sort of do the hard graft and learn from the bottom up, and learn, you know, anything from those little details you need on a building site to, you know, how to trim a curtain and what it should be lined in. So as long as you know them and understand following those rules, then you can have fun. And I think actually that evolution of how the industry worked over lockdown, when the industry sort of suddenly grew quite a lot, and we were all based in our, staring at our computers all day. And actually that realization that everyone had to get quite technically able and really be able to, and by that I mean more computer drawing and photoshopping, because it was the best way to sort of really show people what you were giving them. But actually what we realized was that the more we could be technical and show everyone what we wanted to produce, the more fun we could have with it. And so actually that was a really exciting time for us and the team, because it meant that we could suddenly explain better to our clients what we wanted, what we were saying. I mean, you know, back in the day when I try and draw something, I'm not particularly talented at sketching. And when I would try and draw something on the back of an envelope, and clients would say, no, not sure you're helping here.
Just so trusty.
Whereas actually now, you know, we can really show them what, and that was quite a long time ago, but now we can really, really show them what it is we want to do with their homes. And that's really exciting for them as well as for us.
Yeah. I mean, being able to do those renders and being able to show clients very specifically what it is that you have in mind, I think it also helps them make decisions faster.
Yeah.
And also feel more confident in saying yes.
Yeah, exactly. I think it really helps with trust. And we definitely we don't like to give really detailed visuals of the whole house, because we feel removes that element of kind of spontaneity and of changing your mind because you see something amazing in an antique store or a new fabrics released. But what we do like to do is for the really key rooms to do quite a detailed visual that's usually watercolor, so it still has a sense of atmosphere and sort of imperfection to it and the possibility that things can change. But then we'll say to them, look, if you understand the process for this room, then we've earned your trust. And then for the rest of the house, hopefully going forward, you can just trust us and trust the process, rather than being really, really, you know, down to the final detail on everything, because I think that just removes some creativity and some sort of possibilities for exciting things to happen. And there needs to be that balance that you're giving people enough information and obviously all the technical information that they or the contractor requires, but you are still allowing like life into the project.
Yeah, that's where the magic comes in too, I think.
Totally. And it's often through problems or unexpected situations that arise on site that the most creative solutions are born out. And then they're the things at the end of a project when you say, oh, what's the bit you love most? Someone's like, oh, you know, that funny space under the stairs that we didn't know was going to even exist until 2 years in. You know, it is, you've got to be open to those curveballs, and then they often are the most special things.
Totally.
Going back to your point of trust being the most important element, that's half the battle, isn't it? Right at the beginning is just building that relationship with clients. And we really value that part of the project at the beginning, where we can really get to know our clients and really understand what they want, to show them that we can be trusted and we're going to go away and create something really lovely for them, because without that, they're not going to enjoy the experience. And that's what we haven't put all these years into, you know, creating homes for people without wanting them to love them. So I think it's really important that, you know, that they trust us, but you have to work at that and do lots of little tweaks to the designs or the process for each individual client to make sure that they are getting what they need from that.
And every client is different. And I think you can, or we can certainly look at our projects and know, I mean, luckily, I think they're all successful and all our clients are happy, but you can tell the ones where the client has really let go and put complete trust
the layers
in you.
Come in that way.
Yeah, totally. And often when there isn't complete trust, it's not that they don't trust you, it's that probably something in their circumstances, you know, maybe it's because their children are moving away from home that they're doing this project, and actually deep down, they're quite sad about that, and they're not ready to relinquish their children's bedrooms and turn them into fabulous guest bedrooms, you know. So they're not, you know, often I think when there is a bit of holding back, it's not actually to do with the client designer relationship, it's to do with where the client is themselves in their lives and whether they are fully ready to do the work on their house.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's so personal.
Yeah,
the whole process is so personal. It's, you know, people always joke it's like you're half designer, half therapist, but it's kind of true.
Yeah. And when you think about, you know, the reasons people do a house is always tied to some kind of change in their life. So whether it's because people have just got married and it's their first home, or their family's expanding because they're having kids and they're entering a new chapter, or it's decreasing because the children have moved out. There's always some sort of emotional reason to why someone is doing work on a house, and we have to work out what that is if it's not obvious, and then help the client sort of navigate that part of things as well. Yeah, so add that to the list of requirements for a designer.
Yes, I know. It's business owner, therapist,
Exactly.
color consultant.
And because, like you reflected, Ariel, we create, our interiors tend to be very comfortable, both in how they look, but also how they actually behave. I think we do therefore encourage a certain type of client that really wants that very sort of homely space. And so they might therefore typically want to be more involved in the process. And we do want, we have to counsel them through the fact that change is okay. We often say to them, oh, but you might live slightly differently in this house that we're creating for you, because it's going to perhaps work better than your last house. It'll be more practical. It will have better flow. Right. And sometimes there's quite a lot of resistance to that, because they don't want us to turn them into different people. But inevitably, you will be a slightly different person because of the home that you live in, because you can be, find things easier, and that enables you to live in a different way. So we have to sort of help them through that process. That is okay.
Yeah, and good design should be, can be and should be like transformative on someone's life. If we've done a really great job, people will live their lives slightly differently, and that's also like a real thrill to think that you can play a part in that.
Well, I have a question for both of you. What do you think your homes say about each of you?
I hope mine says that I want people to be comfortable in it and relaxed in it. I love having people in my home. I'm not as consummate a hostess as Nicole, who's much better at kind of eating and drinking, the cooking and feeding her guests than I am. But I do like to make people feel at home, and I love it when you get a thank you note when someone's been to stay, and the main thing they say is, I just felt I didn't want to leave. I felt so comfortable. I felt like I was at home. Like, for me, that's the biggest
compliment. Yeah.
And I'd like to think that the kind of way I decorate the house is quite relaxed, is quite comfortable, but also in a slightly old-fashioned way. I'm quite nostalgic as a person, and I like some of the formality of old-fashioned living. Like we often eat in our dining room. I like the process of doing that. I like the adults maybe retreating to a slightly smarter, quieter room and not having to always be in the chaos of like kids and playrooms and kitchens and things. And I quite like, I don't know, that sort of genteel feeling, I guess, of perhaps an era that we don't really live in anymore, but I like to cling on to it and pretend we do.
I don't think either of us could claim, sort of with the way that we design, to sort of want to live in a sort of contemporary life. But my London house doesn't quite lend itself to having so many different spaces to disappear to, but I love to transform the spaces that we have into those sorts of smart dining room, or that different element. But like Mary says, I love to cook and have people sort of surrounding me while I do that. I like people to keep me company while it's happening. So I think that my way of hosting is quite informal. I like people just to feel very welcome and relaxed when they're there. So I think it's a different way of doing it, but we want people to feel the same.
Want the same thing. Yeah,
exactly.
I just don't want anyone in the kitchen with me. That's the fundamental difference.
I grew up in it with a big family. Well, actually, Mary did as well, and it was a very, very busy household. There were always people coming and going. My mother worked out of our home, and I can't help but recreate that all the time. So I'm always wanting there to be people there. And
beautiful.
Yeah. And actually, I think you're right. I think that's true for both of us, although we approach it in different ways based on our, the differences in our personalities. But we both see homes as like places to be used and lived in, and multiple people coming in and out of them. And that for a house to kind of feel alive, it needs to be like robust enough to be used properly. And particularly some of the older houses we work on in the UK, there is a danger that people can want their house to feel a bit like a museum and then wonder why it feels lifeless, So always at the front of our mind, I think, is that houses to be lived in, and if a house is to survive and thrive like someone's body, it needs to be taken care of and used. And that's how you get the best out of things. So yeah, we're always encouraging that.
Exactly. And having lots of soul, I think. You don't want to. I have precious things. I have things that are precious to me, but I don't want anything to feel too precious to those that are coming in. And actually, we always reflect this in our, in our interiors, which is exactly the same in our homes. We wouldn't ever want someone, I would never want someone to walk into my home and not feel that they could sit on the sofa or sit on a chair or, kick back a little bit. And I think that's definitely our approach to how we design our interiors for our clients as well, that some people, we definitely work out their parameters. Are they going to be someone that is going to want to have a dog sitting on the sofa, or are they going to want to have have an experience where someone puts their feet up on their sofa? If they are not that, we design it appropriately to making sure, how they want to live. But equally, it's still about it never feeling too precious, that everyone feels that they can, relax in a space.
Yeah. And you can see so much of that in your work. And I think it makes sense that it reflects in both of your homes in different ways, according to your personalities. But the amalgamation of both of those things from both of you is sort of what makes up the ethos of your firm. And it's really beautiful. Yeah. And I think it's so evident in your book and in your work and in your textiles line and everything that you do, is this sort of sense of, an inviting comfort that's really rooted in classic English design, but made for how people really want to live. And I think it's just really beautiful.
Thank you. Wait till this new collection comes out, Ariel. It was sort of really
so excited. We love your stuff in the office. Yeah. It's so good. I mean, speaking of, what are some of your favorite places to shop for home?
Gosh, I mean, I obviously, we're very lucky to have the Pimlico Road here. So I think, in terms of sort of inspiration, that's hugely all encompassing. Actually, I was recently in Sweden, where I hadn't been before, in Stockholm, and they had such an array of different types of stores. I was only there for sort of 36 hours and went from sort of Sphinx 10, which was such a delight to walk around, and I did walk away with a few little packages, to sort of, the sweetest little sort of farmers market type small boutiques. And then even the high street shops felt so interesting and design led.
Yeah, I was going to say just much more design led.
Exactly, that was quite a treat of sort of recent, if I'm thinking about recent shopping that I've done.
Yeah. And I love antique stores. I kind of feel, my husband definitely feels that our house is finished, and he's always surprised when I tell him we need a few more things.
Me too.
The things I look for, like personally for my house, is often, if we're going away somewhere at the weekend, I'll trawl the local antique shops or antique websites at 11 o'clock at night when I really should be asleep. And things like, we have the decorative fair in Battersea in London, which I think is 3 times a year, is a really great decorative antiques fair where some of our favorite dealers show there, and they curate their stands really beautifully with a real mixture of different eras of antiques, and it's very inspiring. I mean, you can always find something there that you want to buy, but it's also just great for kind of getting your eye in. We love taking clients there because it's a brilliant way to show people how you can mix, like a big Jacobean sort of hall table and then a, 1970s like Italian lamp. You can mix different things together if you've got that confidence to do it. And I think that the Antiques Fair is a great place to do that. But we're definitely spoilt in the UK with loads of amazing antique shops.
Oh my God, you really are. I know. When my kids are a little bit older, I have so many things on my bucket list. I want to come and do a big.
We'll come for a visit. We'll give you a tour.
Yeah, we like an excuse to go shopping.
Exactly, me too. Well, speaking of, this season is sponsored by Shop My. So we're asking every guest that comes on, is there anything in your storefront or types of products or anything on your wish list that you're particularly excited about?
There's obviously quite a lot of our product on there. It's so reflective of what we're inspired by. But we also just love really sort of heritage or clever brands, sort of in fashion, and thinking about things like sort of Anya Highmarsh, who makes the most beautiful sort of handbags and leather goods.
Yeah.
And, some of the sort of interiors brands, like sort of Alfred Newell with his beautiful sort of wooden furniture. We recently did a talk during our book launch with Skye McAlpine, and she has the most sort of beautiful ceramic collection. So those sorts of pieces.
I think we're definitely proud to support British brands.
Yeah.
Wiggy Kit is another great fashion brand that we
We
love.
love Wiggy Kit.
Yeah, just such clever designs, really. It's a bit like interior design. She really thinks about her client and
Yeah.
the general age bracket they might be in and the general sort of lives they might lead, and really designs clothes that work for that. And M is another British brand we really love for workwear. But I agree. I think Anya Highmarsh is brilliant. And all these people that are good designers and sort of like witty and clever as well, which I think is usually quite synonymous with British design, that element of sort of humour as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we've only just sort of got on board with Shopmire, and now we're very excited because both of us go down a slight rabbit hole on things like this and we'll be on it for hours.
It is really addicting to curate the store. I mean, I get lost in it for hours all the time.
Yeah. And if you asked us this in a year's time, it might be a more wide, broad answer.
I tell you what else I would put on there is away suitcases.
Yes, well, I was going to say that. I think as our life has become busier, we've become much more conscious of things being convenient and clever and easy and helping our lives. So I certainly think sort of, whether that's
Packing cubes.
beauty, yeah, exactly, whether that's sort of beauty products or, things that you need to easily pack or, the actual packing. I was away, only got back yesterday on a trip for work and had to take several huge suitcases. So, the more you do that, the more you realize that everything needs to become more convenient. And my husband was saying to me, what is it about away? You're so obsessed. Yeah. And I said, yeah, but it's,
I love them too.
You have to find a brand that you love.
I've got one on my Christmas this year. My husband was like, I think I've now bought you across Christmas and birthdays, like every sort of, variation of a suitcase that they do.
It's amazing. This is why we love it, because you can curate, it's interior, it can be interiors focused, but it can also kind of take your entire ethos and translate that into fashion or beauty or how you just live in general, entertaining.
Yeah.
So I'm so excited to go down a black hole on your Shopmire. Well, at the end of every episode, we always do our Take 10, which are our rapid fire questions. So what is your favorite food?
Italian for me, of kind of any kind, but I love like burrata, figs, parma ham. Delicious.
I love anything soy sauce based, so probably sushi.
Nicole honestly goes around with soy sauce in her handbag, like at all times. She's never without soy sauce.
That's amazing. My 6-year-old daughter is also obsessed with soy sauce.
She and I will be hanging out together soon.
Favorite drink?
Martini.
Well, I put tea, but I know that comes up later. So maybe white wine or Bellini. Actually, a Bellini.
Oh, I love a Bellini.
Yeah, always makes me feel kind of, I don't know, party ready, a Bellini.
Yeah. Favorite film?
Oh, I'm sucker for sort of Hollywood glamour. So I always go back to sort of High Society or, some classic sort of Grace Kelly movie.
That's a great movie. I have strangely gone for Usual Suspects.
Ooh, I love that.
That has like the best twist, I think, in almost all like cinema history at the end. And everyone's like, oh, I did not see that coming.
It's so good.
And generally, like, I'm getting my kids to watch not The Usual Suspects, but like films from the 90s, because I know everyone thinks their generation, their youth was the best. But honestly, like, movies in the 90s were great. They don't make them like that anymore.
No, absolutely not.
So I'm on a bit of a campaign to watch all of those and all those kind of like Sleeping with the Enemy, and all the sort of The Fugitive and all those like thrillers. That was so good.
So good. Favorite hotel?
It completely depends on my mood. I noted El Fen in Marrakesh because I was there recently, but I'm lusting to go back already. So I think probably that, but it varies every day.
Yeah. I went years ago. I think it was before I had I was really pregnant with my first child, and we were in Tuscany, and my husband was a bit cross because I didn't want to drive anywhere because I was really pregnant. But then he couldn't drink any of the delicious wine in Tuscany because he was having to drive everywhere. But we stayed in this wonderful hotel called Borgo Pignano, which is basically like a village. It's like a kind of Tuscan village, and the whole village is the hotel. And there's an amazing swimming pool carved out of like a rock face, and it's just magical, and sort of you feel like you've stepped back in time. Really, really special.
Favorite city?
I again think with Nicole, it's kind of stage of life or where you've been recently. So I've been to Seville recently, which is somewhere I've been to quite a lot, and I really love it. It's lovely and small, so if you go a couple of times, you suddenly feel like a local, and you go back to the same bars and the same shops. I like it's quite glamorous. There's a good culture scene, good food, good weather. And it's easy to get to from London, so Seville, but in brackets, New York and London.
I was actually talking to my father last night about going to Seville in a couple of months' time, so I haven't been before. I'd love to go. I think Amsterdam for me. It's a city that it's tiny, but I often think it's somewhere I could live. So I think as somewhere,
I was going to say, if the test is somewhere you could live, that's quite a good gauge, isn't it, for a city? And you could live in Amsterdam now, whereas I don't think I could live in New York now. I think I'm a bit old and tired for New York. I could have lived there in my 20s.
I agree, and I live an hour outside of the city now. I moved out during COVID, but I couldn't live in the city, and I lived there for 15 years, but I couldn't live there anymore. I'm just too old and tired.
But I do love that about kind of growing older and life stages changing, that actually what's that sort of expression, there's a season for everything. And actually I loved it when I lived in London, but I don't want to live in London anymore, and I'm really happy living in the countryside, and it suits my stage of life. So I think that's to be embraced, because then we can all enjoy different holidays, different cities, different things, dependent on the stage we're at in our lives.
Although to that note, whenever anyone asks me what my favourite city is, I do often reflect that actually wherever I go in the world, I come back to London and I think this city is incredible. It really has everything.
We love to ask designers this question about bedding because it's so unique and every designer has a different answer. Favorite bedding?
So mine isn't a brand, but it's an item of bedding. I love an eiderdown, and I sleep under an eiderdown almost like for 12 months of the year.
They're so cozy, and it's such an English thing.
Yeah, I love it.
Well, do you want another very English thing?
Yes.
A heated blanket.
Oh, yes.
We also sound like old women.
I'm sorry, what you wanted was, 400 thread.
No, I have a heated blanket and I use it every night in the winter at bedtime. And it is like the coziest, most amazing. Like I look forward to it when I get in bed and use it. It's so cozy.
Me too. So yeah, it's all about heated blankets, hot water bottles, and eiderdowns.
Yes. This is another question that I think I'm going to get a very English answer to. Tea or coffee, and how do you take it?
100% tea for me. Nicole could answer that question in a flash. Milk, no sugar. And I know that you will be coffee.
I am only coffee. I don't even like tea.
And I am only tea.
So, that's how we work.
I love that. Favorite playlist or music to listen to?
I still love, I probably have quite cheesy taste in music, but I love Fleetwood Mac radio. It makes me cry sometimes because it reminds me of sort of lockdown and staring at my computer and sitting in, at my desk. But it's very nostalgic now for that reason.
Yeah.
And I love, loads of things. I love listening to music, but I love Travelling Wilburys as a radio station playlist. Because you realise like there were so many good people in that group, and then it heads you off in all these different directions. And also, I love a bit of Bruce Springsteen. So I will quite often listen to like Bruce Springsteen radio, which can take you to Fleetwood Mac and other places. So it's basically all those good like 70s, 80s, 90s kind of singer-songwriters.
We do have quite similar tastes in music. And when we either are on long car journeys or when I do convince Mary that it'd be fun to to cook together, we will enjoy a playlist together.
We both love musicals as well, so we might sing along to a musical, on a long car journey.
I love that. You guys have to be sort of one mind to do what you do, so that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Favorite weekend activity?
I spend a lot of my time on the sports sideline at the weekend. Because I think also when you're away a lot as a working parent, you do need to also, I like to be really present doing those things with the kids at the weekend as much as I possibly can. But I also like to fit in some exercise, and enjoying some time with friends with the children as well is that's sort of like my ideal weekend.
You're making me feel so bad because mine is gardening on my own. Not with the children.
All of those sound good though together.
We'll leave you with that, Ariel.
Yeah, exactly. I feel bad.
I love that. Well, a final few words. What are you guys working on right now? Are there any new projects you can talk about? I know the new collection coming out in January must be the biggest.
Yeah, that is definitely something that's occupying a lot of our time. But I think what we've worked really hard on in the last few years is to structure the business in a way that we are able to still be really, really involved in our projects and do the collection, which is, we're really proud of that. But there are a few we can't talk about that are probably some of the most exciting.
There's something really exciting that will be happening next year that we can't talk about, but will become apparent in the spring. I think that there'll be an announcement about something which is very exciting for the design team.
Oh, I can't wait.
We're also working, lots of nice projects, but a really fab chateau in France.
Yeah, that's what I was going to talk about.
Is just, every room is like a complete dream. A complete refurbishment.
So cool. I can't wait to see it.
And it's everything that you would sort of dream of. And they came to us because they wanted a kind of English country house look. And we were like, great, but we'd also love to do a bit of a French chateau look. So it's very much a marriage of the two design styles, and they really want to live in it and use it as well. So I think it's going to be really amazing. So very excited about that.
And it's really exciting to work on projects like that you can. So, when working on a chateau in France, implementing a bit of French style, when working on a house in the States, implementing something that's appropriate to the US, or we've just actually going out in February to photograph a chalet in Switzerland that we did for some clients who actually live in South Africa. So lots of different cultural influences, but and it's so nice to create those different spaces while keeping that influence. So we're really, we're working on some really exciting things at the moment. And then lots of fab houses in the UK, both in London and in the country as well. So lots going on.
Yeah. I can't wait for book 2. You're going to have so much material for book 2.
I think it's going to be a while. Everyone keeps saying that. Like, we've got to, most of our projects take kind of 2 to 3 years. So it'll take a while for book 2, but I think we would love to do another one. The whole experience has been really rewarding.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
Well, finally, what advice do you have for someone looking to define their own interior style?
I think try and be your own interior designer. Give yourself the confidence that you can go all in and do clever things and interesting things. It doesn't need to just be sort of surface. And be confident.
It's so interesting and always reassuring when Nicole and I make the same notes that I had said be confident as well, and be really honest with yourself about how you like to live. And so many people look at Instagram or Pinterest and get their inspiration from there, but that might have worked for the person whose house that was. It doesn't necessarily mean that's going to work for you. So I think you got to sit yourself down, have a really honest conversation with yourself about how you live. Are you tidy? Are you messy? Do you like things on show? Do you like everything behind closed doors? All of those kind of things. Like make your own kind of client brief. And then once you've done that, be really confident in your decision making, knowing that you're designing it for yourself.
Or maybe it's less. And, we've been saying be confident for quite a long time, but maybe we're saying it in the wrong way. Maybe it's trust yourself.
Yeah.
Trust that what you're trying to create will be okay in the end, because it takes a long time to add those layers. And certainly if you're not doing it all in one go, you have to really trust yourself that the next layer that you add will help and will continue to develop that design. So believe in yourself.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's so true. I think so much about authenticity and style, whether it's fashion or interiors, is about being confident in who you are and what you're gravitating.
Yeah. Which is hard in a world when you're surrounded by like a constant stream of ever changing, like fast-paced imagery. It is hard to kind of keep your feet steady and know actually what it is that you like. So maybe like Nicole said earlier, go back to the coffee table books, particularly A New English Style by Salvesen Graham.
I highly recommend it to everyone listening.
Step away from the screen and remove yourself a bit from online stuff and take some time to really look around you, or go to an art gallery or a museum, or just a walk, and kind of remove yourself from the influx of constant information and see what you're left, what kind of settles what you're left with when you're not constantly looking at imagery. I think that's quite important.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think that's amazing advice. Oh my God, this was so much fun. Well, where can listeners...
next week as well.
Yes,
have a
seriously, this is so fun. Where can listeners find more about you and your firm?
Well, lots of places. I mean, beyond the book, of course, which we've mentioned. Instagram. We've recently combined our Instagram accounts. We used to have one for the collection and one for interior design. And actually, we felt that as the collection was growing and becoming a much bigger part of our brand and our business, we wanted actually them to be together. So we've recently combined them. So it's easier to find the information. Newsletters, sign up to newsletters.
Yeah,
our team
have a really good newsletter.
Yeah, our team's put together great newsletters and information about what inspires us, what we like, what we're up to, but just news about what we're doing and the collection.
Yeah, and we interview a lot of fun people that we work with in the industry. So I think we've got one coming up with Sister Parish.
Oh, I love that.
Who we love. Yeah, we've done a great one with a lady called Sarah Watson, who has an amazing tile firm called Balaneum. So that's a really fun way for us to share other creatives in our industry and shine a light on people that we think are doing a really good job. So yeah, there's lots of interesting things in there.
Well, Nicole and Mary, thank you so much for coming on. This was so much fun. I am truly such a fan of your work, and I love your book and I love everything you do, and it was such a delight to get to chat with you both.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you too, Ariel. We love what you do too, so thank you for having us.
Thanks again to my guests today for joining me, and to Shopmy for sponsoring this season of Talk Shop. Head to the show notes to create your free shopper account and explore the curated storefronts from this season's designers. We'll be back next week with more thoughtful discussions and amazing guests. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube so you never miss an episode. And of course, follow me at Ariel Okin. See you next week.